welcome back to They Did What? Your source for the internet's craziest, most entertaining stories, where I go with them, analyze them, and most certainly make fun of them. Today, I'm going to go over a story, actually two intertwining stories about two couples that are in college, a friend group, where things don't exactly end well for the gals after they both, in their own way, try to get their guys to have an open relationship. One open marriage. And as these stories usually go, the level of entitlement is through the roof. But let me tell you, the guys had the last laugh, in particular the guy narrating the story. And just to give you a little clue, not too many spoilers, the guy telling the story, his girl, goes down the feminist path. Majoring in women's studies, blah, blah, blah. And you can imagine the mumbo-jumbo she shares here. And at the end of the day, you're going to see in this crazy, wild story that intertwines these guys' lives. At the end of the day, you always got to pay attention to your girl, pay attention to red flags, and they start yapping about open marriages, open relationships, all that. It is over. And frankly, if your girl goes down the path of wanting to major in women's studies or starts clearly showing signs of being one of these wacko feminists, it ain't going to end well. End it with her right then and there. And believe me, you guys will find this quite entertaining, and our guy handles it quite well in the end. Now, guys, as you can see, this is a long one, and it's actually a very long one, so it's going to be split up into two parts. So this is part one, so as I'm letting you know in advance, so if you want to just pause it and come back later, I'll have part two to this published in 2 hours, and you can watch them back to back, whatever you want to do. I now make it a habit to let you guys know, that way you don't get to the end and be like, what the F, SSM? So I'm letting you know now. So definitely it's a longer story, as you can see by the length of this video. And the other one will be long too. So definitely get your popcorn, get your beer, get your Cracker Jacks, or whatever the hell you eat. And I think you'll definitely enjoy this one. So he starts this crazy adventure saying, hello SSM. This story is about two couples, so I'll begin by introducing them. Zara, my girlfriend, is 21. My name is Brad, and I'm 23. Zara and I met in high school when I was a senior, and she was in the 10th grade. We have been together ever since. We both grew up in the suburbs of a large East Coast city. I was accepted at a university in that city. My parents couldn't afford to send me to a private school, but the school waived my tuition for the 4 years I was there. I majored in psychology. Well, clearly you had something to offer and give back if you got your tuition waived. Obviously, that's fantastic. When Zara graduated high school, she attended the local community college for her first 2 years. I graduated in the spring of 2023, and Zara was accepted at the university I just graduated from. Most of her community college credits transferred, so she started my alma mater in the fall of 2023 as a junior. At the community college, she took a course in the history of women's movement and decided to major in women's studies. Oh, for God's sakes, just throw away the money and her time. If you've been following my work, you ought to know, dude, then this is the time to part ways, because this is going to end well for you. And, well, you're going to see I'm right. What the fuck job are you going to get in that? Really? Unless you're going to teach a course on that. I was accepted to graduate school in psychology at a different university, but the same city. I got a 3-year fellowship, so my tuition was waived again, and I received money for living expenses and course-required books. Fellowship, that's cool, dude. Obviously, you're a smart dude and got things going for you. Well, hopefully all the things you learn can help you in your career, obviously as a psychologist or psychiatrist or whatever the hell you want to do. In return, I was expected to assist a professor in his psychology class. An intro class was required for all freshmen, so we have 50 to 70 students enrolled each semester. The professor I've been assisting is Marco. More about him later. Marco. Sounds like trouble. The relationship didn't provide a lot of money, though. The fellowship didn't provide a lot of money, though, but with Zara's parents' help, Zara and I were able to move into a small one-bedroom apartment. So we started living together when Zara began her junior year and I began graduate school. The other couple in this story is Les and Bunny. Really, you couldn't come up with a better code name, secret name for a girl than Bunny? Sounds like a stripper's name, but okay, Bunny it is. Why don't you call it the chick Thumper? Les is my age and began graduate school in psychology the same semester at the same school as me. He grew up in the suburbs of the city where our university is located. Very different suburbs. My parents don't have a lot of money, and Les's parents do. Les and I went to different high schools and had never met before we started graduate school. There were 6 grad students in psychology who entered the semester Les and I started. 3 males, including Les and me, and 3 females. The other male left school after the first semester. One of the females married and dropped out after our second semester. Man, these people are dropping like flies. Les got a teaching assistantship, a TA. The only difference between my fellowship and his TA was that the TA paid better, but I was given a free parking space at the university and a tiny office for myself in the library. I would take the money. The university is downtown, so it's almost impossible to find parking space anywhere near the university. Paid parking in the area is very expensive. A free parking space is a very nice perk. Okay, good point. Bunny, I can't believe you chose the name Bunny. Bunny is probably a year or two older than Les and me, but I don't know her exact age. Les did his undergraduate work at a private university in another state. The university is in the town where Bunny grew up. They met while Les was an undergraduate and married as soon as he graduated. Smack, moron. When they moved here, Les could attend graduate school. Bunny enrolled as a freshman at the state university about 20 miles from where they lived. She's just starting school now. Didn't you say his family has money? Now we know why she was in a hurry to marry him. Dumbass. Les and Bunny were in a rental directly between the apartment Zara and I shared for our graduate school. Since I had free parking and we had similar school schedules, I agreed to pick him up in the morning and drop him off after school. He agreed to help pay for my gas. My days are like this. Monday morning, Marco gives his lecture to all his intro students in a large hall at 9 a.m. The rest of the week, in the mornings, I had the students in smaller classes to go over coursework and answer questions. Afternoons, I spent in my small office doing my own schoolwork. Please, you're on Facebook and Instagram and watching YouTube during that time. All graduate school classes are in the evenings. I leave home before 7:30 a.m., pick up Les before 8 a.m., and we're at school by 8:45. I get home each night no later than 10:30 p.m. That's a long freaking day, my friend. Long days except for Fridays when there are no grad school classes. On Fridays, I'm home by early afternoon. Les's weekdays are more or less the same as mine. Les was supposed to be waiting for me and just jump in my car when I arrive in the mornings to pick him up. He was never ready. I always had to go to his house in a hurry along with him. Then I wouldn't take him. Don't let him hold you up. Hear the sirens. I haven't heard sirens in a while. They built a hospital down the street, which is nice for an emergency, but means you're going to be hearing more sirens in the future. He and Bunny were always finishing breakfast. Another guy was always there too. He was somebody Bunny met in one of her classes and was her ride to and from school. I never understood that. Les came with me, so their one car was available, but this guy always took her to and from school. Yeah, well, he's a moron to allow that. And what do you think is going on here? Maybe it was a parking problem at the university, or Bunny didn't like to drive. Doesn't matter. Once at our commute, I asked Les how I met Bunny. Les said that the undergraduate university he went to is a small town in New England. The university is the main employer of the people who lived in the town, people whom Les referred to as townies. Les told me that the male students believed that the townie girls were easy marks because they all wanted to marry rich college students. Sounds about right. The myth was that if you encouraged a townie girl to think you would whisk her away to from a life of drudgery into a life of privilege, she would do anything for you. Well, that's pretty accurate. Les continued that the university has been around for 180 years. The townie gals quickly figured out 180 years ago that's what the male students were up to. Each generation had townie mothers passed that info on to their daughters. Townie girls hung out with and married townie boys. They want nothing to do with the university students. What a load of crap. Come on here. You get a pretty girl from the town, a townie girl who's pretty, and find some nice guy simp who's clueless. She can rope him in. Come on. And well, you're going to see in a second. So how did he meet Bunny? I don't know. With Bambi and Thumper? One night, two of Les's dorm mates wanted to go to a townie bar and pick up townie girls. Les knew it was not going to happen, but he went along anyway. University students are not really welcome at townie bars, but unless they try to hit on someone's girlfriend, they're pretty much ignored. Yeah, well, I'm sure the bars will take their money. The three of them were drinking at the bar, looking over the girls, when Bunny came up to Les and asked if he wanted to buy her a drink. Bitch, you can buy me a drink. Les told her that he had some success with women, but Bunny was the best-looking woman he'd ever seen in real life. And she was hitting on him. For once, he said he was speechless. Then she knew she had him. Bunny sat in the bar stool next to him and asked if he couldn't buy a thirsty girl a drink. Les said he finally got his wits about him and bought her the drink. That's his wits about him? They got to a table together and spent the next few hours talking. When her friends came over to get her to go home, she told them that she's staying with Les. She spent the night with him in his dorm room. Well, there you go. That's great for a hookup, but that's not a chick you marry. but this guy's clueless. Les smiled and said it was like winning the lottery. Please. He had already fallen in love with Bunny. Smack! This guy's a bonehead. They were inseparable from then on. Bunny fulfilled all his wants and needs. I'm sure she did. She's the best thing that's ever happened to him. Blah, blah, blah. This is all from him telling the story. They married just after he graduated and moved back to his hometown so he could attend our graduate school. Smack! Gee, whose idea was that? Doesn't his family come from money? See? Marco is now the teacher. Marco started teaching at our university the same semester I started graduate school. He was 30, single, and was hired as an assistant professor, tenure track. I could not have picked anyone better to assist with. Marco wanted nothing to do with his students. I did their exams and graded them. If they had questions or concerns, they came to me. Marco had to post office hours, but I had to be there to intercept any student foolish enough to think Marco actually showed up for office hours. So he's an arrogant young professor. Gee, not many of those out there. Sarcasm. So he was perfect to assist. I didn't have anyone looking over my shoulder or telling me what to do. He doesn't care what I do. The only students Marco is interested in are good-looking female ones. Shocker. And they don't have to be that good-looking or young. I'm pretty sure he's banging the department secretary, a married woman in her 40s. Marco pursues pretty much any female who crosses his path. Because he probably didn't get a lot of attention from women when he was younger, so now he's using his position of authority to get any chick. That brings us up to the spring semester of 2024. When I went to get Les one Wednesday in March for school, he, as usual, wasn't ready. I went in to get him, and as always, he and Bunny were cleaning up after breakfast with the guy who takes Bunny to school waiting for her. Les and this guy had big smiles on their faces, while Bunny looked really pissed off. Les showed me his new watch. The guy who drives Bunny to school bought it for him. Oh, is that his payment? The payment to Les for banging his wife? When he got to the car, I said the watch looks expensive. Les was typing on his phone and didn't answer. He finished with his phone and smiling, said the watch was over $90 on Amazon. I said, why would this guy buy you a $90 watch? Les replied, he heard me complaining that my old watch no longer works. He's just a nice, friendly guy. Please. I looked at Les skeptically, and his smile started to fade. He stared at the watch and looked back at me like he'd lost his best friend. Neither of us had anything to say for the rest of the drive. Les was lost in his own thoughts, and they were not happy ones. Well, Les is about to find out. And by the way, pretty soon we're going to get into the whole open relationship crap, and that Bunny isn't exactly the greatest thing ever came into his life. A few weeks later in April, I was in my small office at the library after lunch trying to get some work done when Les knocked on my door. He said he had to get home. An emergency. I said, we have classes later. Can it wait? No, he had to get home right now. Can't he take a fucking Uber? His family has money. I said, we have classes later. Can it wait? No, he has to get home right now. I took him home. On the way, he told me he had a new book by a psychologist we both admired. He read it, blah, blah, blah. Did I want to borrow it? Yes, I couldn't afford to buy the books, and the university library hadn't got a copy of the book since. When we arrived at his house, I followed him in. He threw open the front door and told me to hurry, waving at me to follow him upstairs. I ran after him upstairs, and he looked in the second bathroom, then the bathroom, and then the master bedroom. Oh, gee, what could he be looking for? Place your bets. He looked in the closet and under the bed, then he ran down the stairs, yelling at me to hurry up. I realized by then that I was either in a movie comedy or the designated witness in his divorce. I wasn't sure if I wanted either role. I followed him downstairs, but I was no longer rushing. I caught him in the kitchen. He was standing there trying to catch his breath, when Bunny came in the back door with a man I didn't know. Back door, huh? Interesting choice of words, because she's probably getting it in the back door. Bunny ran to Les, kissed him and hugged him and asked, why was he home so early? The man came up to Les, said, hey bro, and pulled Les into a big bro hug. The guy was big, overweight, with greasy hair and a scratchy goatee. He was wearing a wool sports coat, dress pants, and a thin tie. His clothes looked like he'd slept in them. Les introduced him to me as one of his lifelong friends. Les had 3 friends who all had been buddies since elementary school. This was one of them. I told Les I had to get back to school. Where's the book he's lending me? He isn't lending you shit. He said he's coming back to school with me. He'll have the book for me when I pick him up tomorrow. We didn't talk much on the way back to school, but I could tell Les was relieved that the man he found Bunny with was his friend. So she's taking a ride from some other dude who gave him the $90 watch. Now she's being dropped off by his so-called friend. How dumb is Les? But obviously Les knows something's up. Someone he trusted. There were no more emergencies in the middle of the day. Les seemed satisfied that Bunny wasn't being unfaithful. Remember, this is the girl that effed him on the first night. Les never let me a copy of the book. Always some bullshit excuse. And that's all you really need to know about Les. Shortly after we started the fall of 2024 semester, on a Monday morning in September, Les was actually waiting on his porch when I arrived to take him to school. He looked terrible, like he hadn't slept much. I asked him what he was up to, and he said that he and Bunny are divorcing. Oh, huh. How interesting. How long did this marriage last? A year? Maybe 2? What happened? I asked, and here's what he told me. He said he and Bunny were at a party last Friday night. Well, nothing good comes from that beginning of a story. When we were driving home, Bunny told him that she wanted to leave the party with a man that she met there. Excuse me, sweetie, what did you just say? In the future, she said, she's going to be with anyone who catches her fancy. Then I better get used to that, she said. She told me that she doesn't believe people are meant to be monogamous. At least she isn't built that way. And the true colors come out. She has always needed multiple men in her life, she said. She then told him that she's been sleeping with all 3 of my lifelong buddies. Explains his friend dropping her off. When he drove me home in the middle of the day last April, she and my now ex-friend had just finished in the master bedroom and gone for a walk. If we'd gotten there 30 minutes earlier, we'd have found them together in bed. Yeah, back to that backdoor action there. So he knew something was up. He continued, and he said, I asked Bunny if his 3 friends know the other 2 are sleeping with her. She said they did. She's been with 2 of them together a few times. Oh, now she's doing 3 ways. Bunny also told me that she had dropped out of the state university she'd been attending shortly after the fall semester. The guy waiting in our kitchen in the morning isn't there to drive Bunny to school. He's there waiting for me to leave so he can take Bunny to bed. I asked her who else she's sleeping with. She said there are occasionally some random guys that are just pickups. She's no longer in school, and I'm gone all day, so her morning guy, my 3 former friends in the afternoons, and me on the weekends keeping her pretty busy. So, a lot of people would say this is bullshit. Who could blame you? Doing this long enough, there are plenty of hoe bags out there, and this actually is a possibility. And that's why I'm covering it. Needless to say, she wants an open marriage. Les looked at me and said, I asked Bunny if you are one of those guys she's been hooking up with. She said, I'm always there whenever you're around. She was never alone with you. She said, you must be really happy with your girlfriend because you never even flirted with her. Is that true? Were you ever involved with Bunny? This is the guy who's telling the story here, who's reading this. And I replied, I've never had any interest in your wife. Now he says to us, to be honest, that's not totally true. Honestly, I imagine what it'd be like to be with her. If the circumstances were right and she came onto me, I'm not sure I would resist. Just like his friends couldn't resist. She's that good looking. Of course, I didn't tell Les that. Well, dude, I hope you wouldn't do that. That'd make you a fucking scumbag. According to Les, he asked Bunny, and obviously didn't do that. According to Les, he asked Bunny why she was telling him all this now. And she replied, the idiot felt guilty he bought you a watch as that would make things right. He didn't talk to me about the watch first. I knew the gift would make you suspicious. When you surprised us in the middle of the day, I knew you were trying to catch me. You almost did. I realized you'd find out about me sooner or later. I'd either slip up or one of your friends would feel guilty and tell you he's sleeping with me. So she's controlling the situation. Okay, I'm cheating. I'm hooking up with all these guys and your buddies. But I still want to be married to you. But mostly, and this is her talking, I wanted to leave with a guy I met at the party. I wanted to be free to be with others without you making a fuss. They're married. Of course he'd make a fuss. I almost did leave with him, but I knew you would have a hissy fit, embarrassing yourself in front of everyone. Oh, gaslighting him. You're the bad guy because you'd have a fit because your wife wanted to sleep with somebody else. And I owed it to you to tell you what was what. But from now on, if I want to hook up with someone else, I will. I expect you not to get in the way. Well, here's an example of where a woman ropes a guy in with her beauty. A totally clueless guy becomes totally infatuated with her. And, and she knows it, rushes into a marriage, and now she's like, this guy's so into me, and she feels so secure that she can do anything. He ain't going anywhere. Les continued that Bunny said that she loves Les, but wants to remain married and grow old with him, but she's not going to give up her lovers. Yeah, I can feel the love. Les is, of course, free to date other women. Monogamy is so confining, she said. And open marriage is so liberating. Yeah, And there will never come a time when she and Les are bored with each other. Talking about their adventures with their lovers will always be exciting, she said. And intimacy with Les is always much, much better after she's been with somebody else. Yeah, after she's stretched open. Les said Bunny is gone. I didn't like the way he said that, so I asked, what do you mean gone? He explained that he threw her out. Well, thank God for that. Les is starting to get some credibility back. Of course he throws a wife out who says that. One of his friends, the one I met when he walked in with Bunny, picked her up Friday night. She's staying with him. Les said he told Bunny he wants a divorce. Les's mother, an attorney, has already written the divorce settlement and contacted Bunny. Les's parents will give Bunny a substantial cash settlement if she won't fight the divorce. She's happy with the settlement, so the divorce is in the works. Well, that was quick and smooth. To some local townie girl like her, it probably didn't cost a whole lot. She's probably not smart enough to realize a certain number, and he didn't give that number, wouldn't go too far. In just a few minutes Friday night, Les told his wife and all his friends, I've not seen her talk to Bunny ever since. Well, that was abrupt, but there you go. This is why you can't turn an HO into a housewife. But this guy didn't really register. Now, by the way, guys, there was more to this, but I have actually reduced some of the story because it was just too much. But he said, and I'm not reading this, that Bunny, apparently he found out later on, now when she was younger, she used to regularly do wet t-shirt contests in that bar that he met her. And quite afterwards would be paid and tipped by attendees in the bar and hook up with them in cars. So she's a HOE. Definite one. No, excuse me. Being paid for money makes you a WHORE. So yeah, that was Bunny. But he looked the other way because he wanted to marry her and she's beautiful. Yeah, he was a dumbass, but at least he's getting out. Now we're going on to the main thing and sidestepping to this dude who's telling the story, Zara, his girlfriend, the feminist. And see how well that is going to work out. He says, on to Zara. From what she told me about her classes, because Zara's in school, Zara is studying the history of women's movement and the evolution of feminist and post-feminist thought. Okay, I'd rather nail my head to the wall than have to listen to that shit. She has a favorite professor, a Dr. K. Sometime during last semester, Zara began calling Dr. K Hannah, Dr. K's first name. Hannah became a part of almost every discussion Zara and I had. Oh, how wonderful. She would say, Hannah says this, Hannah believes that, Hannah wouldn't agree. At one point, I was going to ask Zara if Zara had any ideas of her own. But why start a fight? I hope this was a phase she would get through. No, dude, this is not a phase that she'd get through. And if you're watching this material, you'll know darn well this is not a phase. The second she's going to school for women's studies or women's this, women's that, you should have been out of there. And, well, Zara believes that Hannah has figured out the whole male-female dynamic. Oh, because people have been trying to figure out the whole male-female dynamic since we were in the fucking caves. But Hannah knows all, huh? To say that Zara's views on relationships have changed would be an understatement. We'd always assumed we would marry after we settled our careers. Since high school, Zara and I would talk about life after we married, where we wanted to live, how we would balance marriage, children, and careers. Didn't he have other things to talk about than that bullshit? A couple of months after Zara began her first class with Hannah, I started a sentence with, after we're married, and Zara immediately stopped me and said, we're never getting married. How interesting after just one fucking semester of women's studies. Marriage is a patriarchal institution invented by men to control women, she said. She and I can live together, have kids together, but she won't agree to some piece of paper, a marriage certificate that proclaims I own her. Get the fuck out of here. You know damn well that's not what it is. Please. But I'm willing to bet you if they lived together and it was a common law marriage, she'd be happy to accept all the benefits of the common law marriage. She wants children. Children are an expression of her womanhood, but no marriage. Zara also began to correct some of the things I said. She's now correcting you? Dude, why are you still with this broad? She'd point out that although she knew I didn't mean it, this or that thing I said was offensive to women. I should be more thoughtful and careful. No, bitch, you gotta watch what you gotta say. She would never correct me in front of other people, and it never came out like she was scolding me. Well, give it time. But a lot of the times, after being with friends or relatives, she'd give me her thoughts about things I should have said. I took us all good-naturedly, hoping it was a phase that she would get through. Smack! Yeah, and you're a moron for that. But you're young. You're going to be the psychology professor. Well, now you're learning something here. Les and Bunny had broken up shortly after the fall 2024 semester began. Within a month or so, Les started to hook up with his students. Oh, now so he's like Marco. I found out about this when Les told me the professor, his assistant, called him in and told him to cut it out. Leave his students alone, they were off limits. If he didn't, Les would lose his teaching assistant, his TA. I told Zara about Les hitting on his students. She became enraged, telling me that he's a predator who should be reported and kept far away from his students as possible. Okay, there's one thing I agree with Zara about. Yeah, that's fucking total scumbaggery in its finest. Hooking up with your students. That's like a boss hooking up with his, subordinate. Somebody who works under him. But happens all the time. But let's remember this whole Zara saying that's awful and the whole thing. This comes back later. She insisted I report him to whomever could take away his teaching position, or his TA. I told lots of TAs and worse faculty had affairs with their students. Les was told to stop, and as far as I know, has stopped. Zara told me to find some student and pay her to complain about him. Dude, why are you still with this broad? I reminded Zara we don't have any money. Zara was fascinated by what I told her about Les, about Bunny's views about marriage and relationships. She's a feminist, of course she's fascinated. She told me she also discussed Bunny's ideas with Hannah. We were talking about Bunny's claim that it's impossibly monogamous when Zara said something that really troubled me. Like the other things weren't troubling you? She says she and Hannah agree with Bunny that women should always be free to explore their sexuality. Well, how well has that worked out for so many have done that so far, huh? A woman's sexuality is an expression of her womanhood. If a woman wants to be with other men or women, her husband or boyfriend shouldn't stand in her way. This is all her saying this shit. Bunny's mistake was she wasn't honest with Les when they began their relationship. Well, I agree that look, there are people out there that have open relationships, and if both people come to the relationship with that same mindset and they see eye to eye, fine, live your life. I got no problem with that. But when somebody springs it on you and changes the terms of the relationship, that I got a problem with. But, anyhow, honestly, from the start, it's always best. But there are some men who are so far gone in their fake masculinity and are so insecure that you can't be honest with them. This is the shit she's saying. You're still with her, dude? Don't worry, our guy handles things right at the end. Bunny knew she couldn't be honest with Les, at least not initially. She probably figured that he was so much in love with her that when she finally told Les she wanted open marriage, that he had no choice but to agree. Ding, 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 right there. That's true. Bunny was wrong about that. Zara looked at me in the eye and said, Bunny should just continue to sneak around. Oh, now your feminist girlfriend, who's turning into the biggest asshole, is now saying that it's okay to cheat because men are just too insecure and not strong enough in their masculinity to let the girl go be free and express herself with a mile long of dicks. I asked, what are you saying? It's okay for Bunny to sneak around on Les because he's such a jerk? Or is it okay for any woman to cheat on her husband or boyfriend behind his back if he doesn't want his girlfriend sleeping with other men? Zara replied, see, you said his girl. She's not his girl. He doesn't own her. No, she's his wife. And he ain't cheating on her. She's an independent woman who can decide on and pursue her own needs and wants. When you stand up there and do your vows and say forsake sickness and health and all that other things and basically you and no other, that means no other, lady. Sometimes those needs and wants involve other men or women, and men who don't encourage a wife or girlfriend to pursue her desires are jerks, like Les. Again, this is her thinking, and Hannah's thinking. Men who don't encourage a wife or girlfriend to pursue her desires are jerks. Okay. And is it any coincidence that some of these types of this mindset end up alone, miserable, and regretting their past and saying, woe is me? She says the wife or girlfriend may love the jerk, but if he can't deal with her desires, she has to do what she has to do. This is her life, her happiness, her satisfaction, her sexuality, not his. What these jerks don't realize that the wife or girlfriend having a lover or two will improve her quality of life, and that will definitely improve their relationship. So what she's saying is, happy wife, happy life. Yeah, how well does that work out? Happy life, no wife. Zara must have seen the horror in my face and realized that she was telling me her boyfriend that she thinks it's okay for her to cheat on me behind my back if I'm not on board with her having lovers. Zara then softened her tone and said, some women need validation and attention from men other than that significant others to feel like a whole woman. That works for a lot of women, and that's fine for them. I don't need validation and attention from anyone but you. What a steaming pile of crap. No, you know who she is, and she's saying this because she can see, this guy might leave me. She needs you to be there to help pay the rent. I don't know why these women don't understand that the man's phony compliments and attention are just attempts to get them in bed. I'm happy being in your bed, she said. I love you, and you're all I need. All I ever need. I want validation and attention from my accomplishments, not from sloppy sex with some random guy I probably don't even like. She said guy. She didn't say girl. So while it's okay for women to do what they need to do, regardless of what the husband or boyfriend thinks, I'm not one of those women who craves the attention of other men. I only want you, she says. Yeah, that's a steaming pile of crap. Brother. As if you shouldn't have ended it before when she started changing who she is and all of a sudden major in feminism, whatever the hell that is. Here's the time to depart. Well, guys, let me tell you, in spite of all this, and you're all saying, just like me, why the hell is he dumping her and all that, and running for the hills, or actually kicking her out, letting her run to the hills? Don't worry. This will end well, and our guy will handle it like a boss. And let me tell you, Big Mouth Zara here, and again, another fucking weird name for some chick. I get Hannah. I get Les, but Bunny and Zara. But anyhow, Zara is going to be, well, they're going to end well for her. And at 29 minutes and whatever, half an hour here, I'm going to wrap up part 1. But I'll be covering part 2, 2 hours from now, and you're going to see how this wraps up and how Miss All-Knowing Feminist here gets her on the end. Stay tuned.